Welcome to Metafile Minutes. I'm your host, Eric Humes, and on today's episode, we are sitting down with Tom Kerwin. Tom comes with years of experience in the accounting world. He's also one of my brothers from university. And so when I reached out to him and asked if he'd be willing to sit down and walk through some industry insights, let us know how they're using the 3 A's of accounting in his current system: accounts payable. Let's talk about how do we automate them? Where does AI fit? And what else can accountants really accomplish? That was another A, just so you know. So with that, Tom, thanks very much for joining. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for inviting me on, Eric. It's great to see you, and appreciate you reaching out. Looking forward to talking a little shop with you today.
Yeah, I mean it's nice to circle back around and be able to talk, your everyday, and I guess now my everyday too, just from a different kind of lens, if you will. Jumping
Yeah.
in just to kind of get started, give some of the listeners just a little bit of your background in terms of experience you've had from graduating university to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So Eric and I met. We were both students at Brock University, where I took the Bachelor of Accounting program. Started that in the fall of 2000 and graduated in early 2005. So as part of that program, I did a couple co-op work placements. I did the first two with a firm out of Niagara Falls called ERP. They're no longer there, but that was the firm that I started out with. And then I did my third one with a firm called Smith Nixon based in Toronto. And then once I graduated from Brock, immediately that co-op placement spilled into full-time work with that firm. So it was a professional accounting firm called Smith Nixon in Toronto. So I started off with them, and I got all my practical experience with them. And I also wrote my CA exams. It was called CA at the time, CPA now. So I wrote my exams while I was with Smith Nixon. I was there about 3 years approximately. And then after that, I ended up moving to London. It was where my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, was doing a PhD at Western. So I ended up moving over to KPMG in London, where I actually worked in the taxation department. So it was just strictly tax, as opposed to with Smith Nixon, I was more so in the audit world, and then switched over to tax while I was with KPMG. So I was there about 3 years as well. And then at that time, once my wife was finished up with her PhD schooling at Western, she ended up getting a job down in Gainesville, Florida, at the University of Florida down there. So we ended up packing all of our gear and moved down to Gainesville for a couple of years. So that was an interesting transition. Thankfully, the accounting world and throughout North America, whether it's Canada or United States, is relatively similar. So I ended up going back to the audit world with a firm down there called CRI, which we were there for about 2 years. And then my wife ended up getting a job offer back up at Brock University. So kind of a full circle moment for us coming back to Brock. So we moved back up to the Niagara area, at which point I've had 4 different jobs since I've been back in the Niagara region. First one was working with a company that was in the agricultural industry, selling front end loaders on tractors. It was a company based out of Fort Erie. I was there about 3 years. Then I had about a year and a bit with a hospitality group. So they focused more on hotels, restaurants, entertainment kind of world in Niagara Falls. And I switched over to a company that was working in the non-destructive testing industry. So I was there for about 6 years, and then I transitioned to my current role, which is in the real estate property management industry. So I've kind of seen a little bit of everything, but yeah, it's been a great career trajectory so far.
I mean, you stayed with one girl, but you've been around when it comes to professional experience. How do you think that helps? Like, how do you think, in your current role, the learning of different industries, and also, the firm understanding of taxation and audits has helped you today?
Yeah, I think if you kind of go into a few different industries, it's, I believe, in my opinion, makes you a bit more well-rounded. You kind of get to see sort of what makes companies tick in the various industries. So, whether it's, gross margin percentages is particularly key in certain kind of resale type industries. So that becomes very, very important. Whereas, other industries where I'm in currently right now in real estate, there's not really a gross margin type analysis, right? It becomes more of profitability based on your various rental units, just how debt kind of plays into the whole thing, leveraging debt and utilizing that cash to help you just run your day-to-day operations. So I think it's more of a like well-rounded, I guess would be the best way to put it. Makes you more of a well-rounded accountant to get to see a little bit of everything and all these different softwares that the companies use to. You understand obviously that end of the day it's going to be debits and credits, though that's the world we're going to live in, right? So it's in the different softwares that, even though they have obviously different little details and whatnot that you got to work through, end of the day they're all working toward the same thing, producing financial reports that make sense to the company and the owners and people that are interested in all that kind of stuff.
And that could be backed, if there is an audit of the company and your books, right? I mean, you want to make sure that software offers you an enhanced ability to have the confidence in what you've done, instead of, not being sure that you have to extract properly. So I mean, the software has probably opened your eyes a lot just to what the art of the possible is.
Yeah, absolutely. And when like you said, when it comes to year-end audit stuff, you want to have a software that's very reliable, is going to give you reports that tell you all the information that you want to know as the finance department or owners, as well as the auditors when they get into digging into the details. Are you able to extract all the information that they need? And then also, I found a lot of the different softwares will help you develop KPIs that are important to that particular company. So it may not be your sort of general income statement, balance sheet type stuff, but maybe there's just other measurables that that your owners are very interested in, where if you have a software that can be pretty flexible, you're able to almost generate kind of customized reports that can spit out all the information that they're interested in. You can even have some that have dashboards that'll show you various ratios or whatnot that you're interested in on a day-to-day basis to keep up to speed on what's going on.
And I mean, I love that answer. I mean, just for clarity's sake, Tom and current company, or every past company, not a customer of ours here at Metafile, but a customer, and just being able to learn from what his experience is within the accounting world. I say that because that answer around dashboards and being able to offer, that audit confidence, is something that we've really strived on pushing into the forefront of importance, because it's what gives the customer base the ability to, that's the part of the ROI. Like, ROI is nice when you can calculate that in dollars and cents, but the only thing you can always get more dollars and cents. One thing you can never get back is time. And when your ROI is time, I always say, we are brokers in the currency of time. That it's the best thing you could give back to anyone, from an employee or to a company, is that more time to be that much more creative. You talked about all the software. Can you give me what's your experience with accounts, your accounts payable and those divisions, and automating that process, so that the back office supply chain, if you will, is able to be fluid? Like, have you used any software before, or what have you done over the years?
Yeah, like the first few. So when I was working in the firms, obviously the AP wasn't as big of a deal, right? We would audit companies' accounts payable, but as far as the day-to-day operations, that wasn't a big thing that we got too involved with. But once I started working with for-profit companies and corporations in their finance department, that became obviously a big piece. So the first company that I worked for was the agricultural company based out of Fort Erie. So that was very, very manual. So anything that came in accounts payable wise was entered in by a clerk at the time. So she would enter them in, kind of maintain our accounts payable file, and then we would look at that on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. I can't remember how frequently we did it, but at the time. So, and then you would just churn out your checks, match it up to your invoices, and that was kind of the day-to-day general accounts payable process. So the first, probably I'd say 3 companies that I worked for was very, very manual as far as entering in the accounts payable information. And now with the current company that I work for, it's become a little bit more on the automated side, where we'll upload invoices into a system. We use a third-party company that'll help us with accounts payable. So you'll upload these kind of day-to-day recurring type expenses, where this third-party company knows how to match it up to the various general ledger account codes that you want to populate with these expenses, and then you can analyze them again on a however frequent basis that you want to run your accounts payable payment process. Make sure you approve it, everything's fallen into the right buckets, and so that has kind of been my first kind of experience into the automation side of the accounts payable process.
And I mean, do you think that this system, like is your current system, better or more error free than it was when it was manual? Like, have you noticed a noticeable difference, or is still just it's fluid and it happens, so you don't think about it the same way?
Yeah, it's pretty fluid, and we will analyze what we refer to as NOI. It's a net operating income on a particular property, so we kind of get to see it on a market basis. We have properties in various markets throughout the U.S., so we can look at what we refer to as NOI in city A versus city B, and we kind of have an expectation as to what that looks like. So it's very fluid, I would say, as far as how the accounts payable process works currently. But then when it comes to month-end analysis time, that's where we can look at it, and you'll see if anything's really way out of whack at that point. If AP fell into the wrong bucket, so you kind of need that finance team analysis after the fact to make sure that things are operating correctly. But if all the steps leading up to the automation process are done correctly, it's obviously works very, very well and can be a massive time saver, going back to your point about time being such a valuable asset, right?
And does it give you the insights you talked about, in your current role, like how you can leverage debt to then be able to take that and continue to grow the portfolio? Do you get a lot of insights through your accounts payable and where you sit on a month-to-month basis that you can use that as real-time decision making on understanding what your debt ratio is, or you don't really tie the two together?
Yeah, we don't really tie the two together. Debt's kind of handled outside of the AP. The AP is more so the month-to-month type. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like again, for a property management company, utilities obviously is a big one that comes into play there. So that's kind of primarily what we see as far as the automation side of things on the AP side. So but what you can use it for is comparing your utility expenses on a monthly basis. Do you see any massive spikes, any real big lulls? Did we miss a couple properties that maybe we didn't get a water bill for that we should be for whatever reason? So it kind of helps with that, making sure you're staying up to date, not incurring late fees or anything like that for bills that you miss.
And that's a funny way just a different way of looking at the same issue. So we always try to position by using AP automation, and it lets you get in front of paying early and getting that additional 1% discount or 2% discount. Mm-hmm. But when your portfolio is so long, it's more about not paying it more than what you've budgeted to pay out in terms of the late fees, not as much on seeing if there's savings, because utilities companies don't really offer those kind of savings.
Jen, it'd be nice if they would give you that kind of 2% of you pay within 10 days. We'd probably utilize the software to take advantage of it. Yeah, they don't seem to be too generous as far as those payment discounts goes. So.
Fair. Now, is most of your business done then non-PO invoicing, or is it a mix?
Yes. So I guess looking at from the utility, the recurring invoices, that would all be not non-PO, just your general usage type stuff. But then when it comes to any repair and maintenance type work we need to have done on properties, then you would issue POs. If we can't do it in-house, we do have some kind of a team that does some of the repair and maintenance type work in-house. So if it's either we don't have the capacity to do so, or it's something a little more specialized, then we would go to the PO process and kind of go back to our sort of reliable vendors to see who's has the capacity and ability to do those jobs that we need done.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, so you're using that automation and that data just to find different decision points that allow you to keep everything up to check, keep everything compliant, but also make sure that you're not falling behind anywhere. Any properties next thing are going to be without power because no one was paying attention to.
Absolutely, yeah.
B, right?
Yeah. Like there's been, a few instances where that could happen. You'll get a notice, we're going to turn off the power at 123 Elm Street because of lack of payment, right? So this automation kind of helps us stay on top of making sure that we are paying everything on time with a lot of different properties. Obviously, it's easy to get kind of lost in the shuffle, right? So, so it kind of helps you just stay up to date, stay current with everything, and make sure nothing's
Elm Street. I mean, Elm Street has no power and it has Freddy Krueger.
These poor guys, right? I mean, just a double whammy, yeah. I say the one thing you need with that guy is lights, right?
So got a lot of them. Now, where in accounting do you think the automation offers the biggest advantage? In anywhere within the stream of the accounting world and corporate, like where does that advantage come in?
I would say accounts payable, in my opinion. I think that's probably the biggest one. If you can have a software that's going to be able to identify, certain key points on a vendor bill. So let's say you have a software where you can email it into a general mailbox. It's going to pick up, vendor X has got these expenses. You and I live in Canada, so is it going to pick up HST? Is it going to pick up a Quebec sales tax? All these types of kind of points that you really need to assign to the right buckets when it comes to your general ledger coding. So if you have, I think accounts payable is probably the most advantageous kind of area of a company where you can utilize the automation and AI. So yeah, I think that's definitely where you can see it. It'll save you time, save, a lot of manpower as well.
Right.
And then when it comes to the finance team, taking a look at those buckets on whether it's a monthly basis, quarterly, whatever, however frequently you want to look at it, to make sure everything's falling in line. If there are, expenses or codes that are falling into the wrong bucket, you can get on top of it quickly, make the adjustments within the software, and then kind of correct it on the go almost, I would say.
Yeah, and just stay in front of it, right? I mean, automating it is great, but you still do need to have that one, at least that one person, just to make sure that it's gone the right area, it's been approved. So, when you go back to that, your journal entries, you see that everything can be followed, it can be tracked, and you also know where the bottlenecks may be, right?
Yeah, you've seen some instances where you put in, whether it's an automation or an AI type tool, that it's pretty glaring if it goes wrong pretty quickly. So it's it can work great if it's all falling to the right place, but if it goes to the wrong spot, usually you can pick up on it quickly and get on top of it, and make sure that it's fixed once, and then going forward, you're in good shape.
Now, where do you see? I mean, that we're talking automation, and so accounts payable, and I think that's why there is a lot of options in the market for that area with automation. Where do you see AI playing a role within accounting, and how that day-to-day feature might be altered?
Yeah, like I think I guess probably when it comes to, like, let's say a monthly or a quarterly reporting, you could likely have, I'm sure I've never actually had any experience with this, but AI basically producing reports on a monthly basis that are key and critical to your particular industry, particular business, that could highlight any ratios or percentages that look out of whack, or if you maybe set like a range. I expect our gross margin to be from 25 to 35%. If it comes in at 12, AI spits it out, says, okay, something's wrong, something's amiss, right? So you could kind of utilize, I would think, that AI intelligence to help identify items along those lines. I think would be probably somewhere where you could really lean on it and leverage the technology.
I agree. It's a good fact checker, in the sense of, like, because it can constantly, utilize that machine learning mentality and just keep understanding where the anomalies come in. And it also allows automation to then run freely, because it's like your safety net at before and after, because it can also check for fraudulent inputs in terms of invoicing or different areas, right? If the AI notices an anomaly right off the hop, it's not going to put it into the system.
Yeah, and if you have, like, kind of speaking to your point about fraud there, if you have a set list of vendors that are, your approved vendors, they've gone through the proper channels to make sure that they're doing the work that your company expects of them. Yeah, if someone is trying to put in something fraudulent, it could red flag it and help catch those types of things before they become a problem. For sure.
Now, although you have multiple, residences across the U.S., is it all one business, or is everyone kind of parsed off into their own franchise or their own geolocational business within your books? Like, when you're going through the process, how easy is it to discern what goes to property A and what goes to property C, and how do you differentiate that in terms of your accounts payable?
Yeah, so the for our accounts payable, it kind of goes based on region, I guess would be maybe the best way to put it. So let's say we have properties in the state of Ohio. So we would have a property management company within the state of Ohio that would take care of those particular properties. They make sure that all the invoices are being paid. And then when it comes to the automation of AP, like I said, with the utility type expenses, it goes to our, this third party software company that's going to code it for us. So the process would be they would code that particular invoice to, again, 123 Elm Street, which is based in, let's say, the city of Columbus, Ohio. So you kind of have these key points that are going to identify who owns that expense as far as the property goes. And then the advantage for that with us is that you can look at, then once we come to our financial reporting software, you can look at an income statement for just a single home if you want to. So you can say, all right, 123 Elm's got problems galore. We're paying water bills like crazy. What's going on there, right? So it helps you identify those anomalies, outliers that are really chewing into the profitability of a rental property, right, on a individual property basis, which can be very advantageous for us.
Yeah, that's very insightful to be able to make those decisions and understand. Sometimes if there's a loss leader, what you need to cut, or where you need to make an alteration. So do you invoice the property management company, and then, or like who gets invoiced from the utility company? And like, is there multiple invoices? Like, are they submitting their own invoices back to you, or are they just executing on your behalf, making sure those bills are, being paid by the tenants and so on?
Yeah, so all of our homes are owned by, I'm not sure exactly how many, but there's a number of corporations that are the property owning entities, I like to refer to them.
Okay.
So company ABC owns, let's say, 50 homes in Columbus, Ohio, let's say, for example. So
Okay.
those invoices for the particular properties are going to come from, Columbus Water, or whoever is going to be based individually by home. So those invoices will come in each invoice for each property. So you can't kind of combine them and consolidate them. It's going to be an
Okay.
individual basis. So they will go in within that owning entity. The AP, sort of
Yeah.
automation will assign the expenses to the various properties. Then the payment process, once it's been approved by, somebody in the finance team, making sure again that these invoices look like they're in line. They don't look like there's massive spikes or major kind of decreases in expenses that would trigger us to kind of put a red flag on it and take a
Right.
look into whether the water meter maybe is not working correctly or there's a leak or who knows what, right? So that, so the individual properties have invoices for each individual home
Okay.
within the umbrella of the company that
So
owns it.
you have a lot of invoices coming in the system
Okay.
on a monthly
Yeah,
basis.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure the exact number, but yeah,
It's up
hundreds,
there,
hundreds, hundreds on a
if
monthly
not
basis.
thousands, if you
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
many properties, right?
Probably
All the
goes with it. Yep.
utilities.
Yeah. When you go
Wow.
across all the different properties. Yep.
Yeah. Right. Um. Okay. I mean that is. Now I just try to wrap my head around it. As soon as I get into these conversations, then I start trying to envision it, and it always stops me for a minute just to think about how many invoices are being processed, across.
Yeah.
If one company is doing that many, I think about it across the country or across a state or a province, like
It's pretty
invoices are being,
mind-boggling.
it's
Yeah.
wild how many
Mhm.
come in and get paid. So it's, we appreciate you adding one of the A's to accounting. But speaking of that, if you were the owner of Mandalay Bay Industries, what would be the A that would really put the awesome in accounting, where you would see a software that utilized automation and AI? Dream as big as you want. Just wanted to understand, like, from your purview and where you sit in the corporate chain, what is it that would be like the groundbreaking technology if you could incorporate automation AI into an accounting software?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. I believe that I guess a software that could basically do all the day-to-day, kind of paper movement type stuff. So once all the invoices have come in, all the revenue receipts go out, it basically does all the kind of day-to-day, you know I guess again back to the debits and credits. It kind of does all the day-to-day debit and credit work for you, puts everything in the buckets that you ideally want it to fall into, given the vendor or what type of sale you're going to be making. Produces your month-end reports where you can then look at it with a critical mind and sort of say, okay, here's expectations based on the number of, whether it's sales, in our case, rental income that we
Right.
expect from our tenants. It basically just takes it sort of cradle to grave right on through the process, right? Would be ideal if you could find a software that could do that. And then
Right.
when it comes to time for month end analysis, that's where your finance team kind of takes that critical look at it and says, okay, is everything falling into our expectations? If it's not, does it make sense that it doesn't because of various events that took place throughout the month? Or is there a pitfall somewhere within the process that is not doing what we
Right.
expect it to do, right? So yeah, I think that anytime you could get something that's going to do all of that manual work, where then you can utilize your finance team for more of the critical thinking stuff. I mean, going back to anybody in my position, when you're at school, you're not, the idea isn't to do too much manual work. It's more of the
Right.
critical thinking stuff and understanding what your company is doing, what kind of, again, KPI points you should be meeting. And
Yeah.
so anything you can implement as far as software goes, that's going to do that day-to-day stuff. And then you can use more of the critical thinking type brain
Yeah. I
power, I
mean,
guess, when it comes to the finance team.
that's an important, like, this way to discern the roles, right? So often you think of the accountants being like the manual input of data, but really what you're doing is you're taking the data that's in and then thinking about how to strategically make the decisions to get to that end goal, which, whether that's more rental income, greater profit, gross margin, depending on what industry you're working in. And so it's just putting the tools in place that allow you to make those decisions quicker and with more reliability as to where you're coming from in that path that you lay forward.
Yeah, and then like you said, if you're looking at it from our perspective as like a rental company, if you see that certain properties just are not providing the return on investment that you want, then are you better off as a company to unload that property, even if it's for a loss? Is it going to pay for itself down the road because you're not incurring losses on a per property basis, right? So yeah, you can kind of, like you said, identify those sort of duds and cut your losses and maybe try to find another investment somewhere else where you could utilize, turn the property into cash and then utilize the cash to potentially buy some homes that are going to give you a better return on your investment.
Said like a smart man right there. A very smart man. Now,
I appreciate it.
Do you think that do you notice any effect of the tariffs these days? Being within the U.S. and purchasing properties, it doesn't really hit you as much, or are you noticing there's a bit of a? Because some other industries are really hard hit right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, hasn't hit us. We own all the properties we own are in the U.S. And we have all the people that are doing work on the homes are U.S. based individuals. So it's all kind of within the United States. So it really hasn't affected us so far. You could definitely understand how some companies are getting hit pretty hard with it as far as the cross-border trading goes. But yeah, for us, given our industry and kind of how we're set up, it hasn't really affected us in any way.
And I'm happy to hear that. So I mean, that's a bonus, because you never know. As soon as it shocks you, like which industries are being affected. But
absolutely,
that's for another conversation. Probably not for Metafile Minutes. We're here to talk about AP automation and all the great things that come with adding the A's to accounting. Tom, it's been an incredible conversation. Just to wrap, is there really any messaging or any thoughts that you would give to those that are listening, to our viewers that are listening, around diving into AP automation, diving into investigating more into automation? Like, what do you think what would be your messaging to them?
I think that that's sort of where the industry seems to be. I mean, any industry seems to be going, right? Is the way of the AI and the automation. So I think for someone like myself who started 20-ish years ago or so in kind of my professional career, it's interesting to see the advancements of the software and going from a very, very manual AP process or AR process into a more automated type world. So I think the key is just to try to stay on top of the software and the developments that are happening. It can be a bit of a scary, daunting process when you're used to doing things a certain way for so long, to switch into relying on software and technology. But it's going to be a massive time saver, I'm sure, as we continue on. I mean, it already is compared to what I was used to seeing when I first started. So it's not going backwards. It's going to continue to evolve and get better and better. So I would definitely recommend everybody just to try to lean into it best you can. Try to just continue learning, get into softwares that are going to help your company, your particular industry, and try to utilize it to the best of your advantage, or really leverage that AI and take advantage of it and help make your life a little bit easier, and then allow you to then start looking at things from more of a 600-foot view, right? You're kind of looking down on the big picture as opposed to trying to get too far into the weeds too, right? When it comes to the AR processes. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I agree, and that's just it's the time save. I mean, we talk about being brokers of the currency of time, but I think just in parting words, it's important to remember, there's only 5 vowels, and if you already have automation, you have efficiency, you have intelligence, and you have optimization. The only thing missing is you. Until next time,
there you go.
Stay tuned. I look forward to connecting with anyone out there that would like to speak more about Metavere or wants to know more about this handsome gentleman that joined me here today. Thank you very much. And Tom, once again, absolute privilege. Thank you very much.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on, Eric.
Metafile Minutes. Until next time.
Take care, everybody. Okay, bye-bye.